Picture this: thousands of dudes wearing black concert t-shirts. They're all standing with their arms crossed, facing the same direction and swaying slowly. Then thousands of single tears sliding down thousands of faces. That's right. This episode, we're talking about power ballads. Welcome to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Enjoy the show.
All right, we're focusing on power ballads today. We've been talking about this episode, I think, for about 11 seasons, and we finally
Yeah.
got the balls to do it. I had a harder time than I thought I would.
You sent your top five list last night just to make sure we had the outline kind
Yep.
of filled out. And I was shocked that we did not overlap at all. I
We
thought
had
for
we had no
sure
overlap.
none, absolutely none. I think we only overlapped one artist, and I'm not even sure if that's true. I have to look at the list again, but
I did change one of mine with the same artist. I purposefully went with the less popular of their power ballads, but I thought for sure, and we'll get to the list later, but I thought at least one on the list that we would hit. I knew one, there's no way in the world you would have it. I don't know. I thought maybe we'd have two. I think I messaged you. At most, I figured
yeah,
two, and I thought for sure one. But then the whole idea of a power ballad, like I also chose the theme. Like I went with 1980s. We'll get there. I don't know why we're talking about it now, but we'll get there. But
well, here's the
um,
thing. We've been talking about this for 11 seasons, and I bet you every single time it's come up in conversation, my first comment is, you're going to have to take the wheel on this one.
yeah.
And that's exactly how I felt over the last couple of days as I was trying to put together a list of top five. And the first problem I had was defining it. And I guess my question for you would be, did you have a definition in your head of what a power ballad was going into this, or did you end up looking stuff up like I did, which is how I came up with my list, basically?
No, I mean, it was easy for me early because so power ballads, I think, are a product of the hair metal era for sure. Like, there's definitely 70s songs that would qualify as power ballads, but they were usually in line with the other stuff that the musicians did. Whereas hair metal, it seemed to have seven or eight, you know, rocking metalish, metal-like songs, and then two or three slow songs intended for the radio. They still have the big guitars and the big voices, but definitely a much slower pace, usually about love or lost love or something like that.
Always
Um,
very sad, very
always very
sad,
sad, and
single tear
you get to
sad.
see the beautiful hair of the lead singer, and he'd swish it back, and the tear would drop down his face. And
Exactly.
and it's funny because at some point I do want to do a music videos one, but I know you said you haven't done music videos in a long time. Neither have I, but that was our like power ballads were ready made for the MTV era. Like they were just
Yes.
so to me they were the slow, not soft, the slow,
No, yeah.
powerful, sad songs from hair metal bands trying to get onto the radio. And that's where it got horrible. Like I didn't actually look at the dates of the songs I chose until afterwards. I roughly had an idea where they were. I knew they were 80s, but they became so ubiquitous and so freaking cliched that I started to hate power ballads. And now I'm back to there are some like I certainly could have chosen some more recent ones because I still love a good power ballad, but like I took one of mine off, which I may go back and put it back on before we go there. But like White Lions Wait is a classic song. Like, and I think it's a power ballad, but it starts to get pretty heavy. So I'm like, maybe that's right on the edge, and so I took that one off. So I don't have we have a website. Folks can go to thirdsonginpodcast.com and message us what their definition of a power ballad. We'd also welcome your top five when we get there. or you can email us at thirdsongin@gmail.com. So yeah, even though I'm supposed to lead this thing, I'm fumbling with the real definition.
Yeah, I knew it had to have a slow pace, but then a lot of the songs that I consider power ballads have that bridge where all of a sudden they
Yep.
just ratchet it up, and it's really hard
Yep.
for at least a stanza or two, and then it goes back. What's really funny for me is that, and I think we talked about it before. I've never been a giant hair metal fan. I started listening to hair metal when we were roommates, basically as sophomores in college. Before that, I couldn't avoid them. Of course, they're always on the radio. And if you went to if you went to a fraternity party, when we were freshmen, there was invariably there'd be a hair metal block of music that would get played, depending on who was the DJ. If you were the DJ, then I knew I was getting a good dozen songs. But I was not a huge fan, but I did love a good power ballad. And
Yeah.
I would stop and listen to those, like, those kind of slow paced songs. Cause, a lot of those guys, and it was mainly guys, had great voices. Like they had voices that were made for singing those kind of slow romantic songs. So I have to admit, as far as metal was concerned, at least hair metal, those were my favorite songs were the power ballads. But I had a real difficulty in trying to define what it meant. And the definition that you get if you Google it is pretty similar to what you said.
Yeah.
And I then searched, best power ballads ever, that kind of thing, just to get an idea of the songs. I had a handful of songs I knew I was going to put on the list no matter what. But I was a little shocked at some of the songs that are considered to be power ballads, either because I don't consider the artist to be a metal or a hair metal type of band, or just because of the time frame of it. Like you said, more recent songs or even earlier songs.
So I did look it up because Google's our friend. There's a couple. So this is straight from the dictionary. This one I think you'll appreciate. A slow rock song with a strong emotional vocal delivery and typically a grandiose production. That works. And then here's another one. A power ballad is a slow emotional rock or metal song that builds from a quiet, sentimental opening into a loud, intense climax with heavy drums, dramatic vocals, and amplified instrumentation.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. I don't think I could have come up with the definition myself, but that's definitely the songs that I picked, as far as my top five were concerned. And like you said, just made for the MTV age. I mean, the best thing about power ballads specifically, and probably hair metal in general, was they knew how to throw a beautiful woman into a video. So I did watch much more in the way of music videos way back then in the 80s and 90s than I have in the last, let's say, I don't know, 20, 30 years. But the I, you know, I'm not sure whether I can't remember if Whitesnake made my list. I'm gonna have to pull up my list in a second here. But man, could they put together a video? They had some of the most beautiful girls ever. So, there was
Well,
that draw.
David Coverdale was married to Tawny Katane, so she was in
Yes.
several of their videos.
Yes. And she's exactly who I was thinking of when I said that.
And by the way, there's an article on Grunge magazine about power ballads and how they changed rock forever. The main picture is Night Ranger. So I'm just saying.
Nice. Very nice.
And Night Ranger probably makes my list. Whitesnake did not. I thought about it, but whatever. You got to limit the list to something. So
Well, and that's when you texted me and said you thought we'd overlap, I was sure it was going to be a Whitesnake song. So I was a little bit surprised.
totally changing the subject. Well, not changing the subject completely. Hold on.
Yeah, I'll put music there, so you don't even
Here,
have
go ahead.
to
Put on a power ballad.
say it.
There it is. So the band, have you ever, because one of the trends more recently is pretty heavy metal bands doing covers, and I'm not sure they're power ballads, but of classic soft rock songs, like the band Disturbed, which I know I've played one of their songs. I think it was in when we did sports, I used it as, I said it'd be my walk-up song, one of their songs.
Yeah.
But they did a version of The Sound of Silence, and it's true to it. And the guy has a great voice, but it just doesn't convey the same way. Like it's considered really great cover, but it doesn't do anything. And I don't consider that a power ballad. I think that's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
You're
it
paying
does seem
tribute
like.
or trying to make money.
I mean, and they are, I guess, a sort of. I'm not sure if they would define themselves as a metal band. I feel like they are, but I don't listen to a
Yeah,
lot of them. To me,
yeah.
power ballads really do kind of stem from either from hair metal or the immediate precursors or immediate followers of that kind of subgenre of metal. Because I love ballads anyway. I mean, there are country ballads, there's rock ballads. Nobody does a better rock ballad than Seeger, for example. He's got a ton of them.
Yep.
But I wouldn't call any of those power ballads. That would have changed the list entirely if you included
Right.
them in the definition. And it's funny when I look at both of our lists together, and I just pulled them up for our top five. They're very limited in time,
Yeah.
and yours are practically only within 2 years of each other, with one exception. Uh, and mine are a little more spread out, but I went pre hair metal just because I found some lists that identified some songs as power ballads that I was like, all right, well, if it's on their list, I'm going to use it because I like that better than whatever that Poison song or something. So, but they're all old. That's what it really comes down to. Is they're all before. I don't think we have a single song that's after 1988 on either of our top five lists.
Hmm. I do a terrible job, and I've said it, even though we're just coming off of a episode where we focused on the top women of color in music. I don't do a good job of incorporating female singers into my library of favorites. But there are a couple, and I will mention them when we get there. But Lita Ford has to be on there. And then I don't know, we'll have to find out when you get to your list. But the one song I kept seeing show up as one of the greatest power ballads ever was Bonnie Tyler's song. I don't know if that's on your list, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it's not. And I did
Okay.
try to see if there were any women, and there are a couple that came across my screen when I was doing the search. But again, just based upon the time frame that we clearly were looking at, where there were just less women, I think, out front
There were.
of bands in general, and
Yep.
also that let's face it, that's a pretty misogynist genre of music when it comes down to it. All you got to do
It
is
is.
watch the videos themselves.
Well, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure that Lita Ford strayed too far from it because she was almost like, I mean, she wore all the leather and
Right,
sexy
exactly.
outfits that the men, so she sort of co-opted it, which is cool.
All right, so here's my question. I've already admitted I wasn't much of a metal guy or a hair metal guy back in the 80s in high school and college when we spent most of our time trying to figure out how to impress girls or get them on the dance floor or whatever. Uh, were you ever were you able to use power ballads to open the hearts of women when you back when we were in our 20s?
Short answer, no. But that doesn't mean I didn't try because
That's what I picture is you being like, hey, I made this mixtape. Listen to
uh,
this
but
song.
but my thing, and you know this is why I think you and I started doing playlists, is we love to impose our music on other people. It's like, hey, listen to this
Right,
song. I
right.
love this.
Whether
And
they wanted it or not.
yeah, exactly. So, and I'm sure there were plenty of times where I was like, this is the greatest song ever. You got to listen to this beautiful song. And then I start playing it, and they're like, either like, turn that shit off, or
I was
I
usually
can't
turn that shit
recall
off.
ever being successful with it.
I
Um,
just picture you putting on Night Ranger and like putting on Sister Christian and then scooching over on the couch a little closer and then her scooching a little further away.
I think I've told this story before, but the only time I can ever remember someone being like, play that again was the Night Ranger song, Let Him Run, which is about a guy who leaves a girl and someone's giving her the advice to just let him go. If he's going to come back, he'll come back. And it was for Hirsch when her and her current husband, her husband, Denny, were in a fight. And I was like, just listen to that, play that. And I think I played it like 10 times. And that was in no way, I was trying to be I was totally trying to be a good friend,
Not
supporting
making
her.
moves. Not making
No,
moves.
there's no moves made ever. And I think I was at the point where I was like, holy shit, how many more times am I going to play this for you? She just kind of, she may have had a drink or two and she's just like, play it again. And I'm like, all right. But otherwise, very unsuccessful with my, proselytizing or whatever with my hair metal and my power ballads. So, but no, that was, no, I was, and the only time I think, and you talked about me DJing for parties. I think even then I get kicked off. They'd be like, dude, play his dance songs, you dumbass.
Yeah, I think you were given roughly 20 minutes and then you were quietly moved over. Usually just lured away with a beer somewhere.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, yeah, we're back to I don't know, in excess or something.
Hey, they're playing quarters over there. What?
Hey,
Take care of
euchre
the table
game.
for me. Euchre, yeah. So no, I was a sucker for a good power ballad, but I was one of the biggest suckers for them because I couldn't get others to buy in. Not even my fraternity brothers. I don't know how much more we can dive into the definition of power ballads, so let's just cut to the chase and do our top five and extrapolate from there. Yeah, so my fifth one was a tribute. This is a band. It's really funny because I've been sending you articles from American Songwriter. They do these little top three or top four, top five of something. And recently they did five bands from the 80s that should get back together, underrated and or whatever. Um, I'm not sure the band was underrated, but I love this song so much. Jafria is the name of the band. Greg Jafria was the lead singer or guitarist, I think. The song is Call to the Heart, which either you know it or you don't, but once you listen to it, I think you'll remember this song being played ad nauseum right around 1984. So my senior year in high school and or my freshman year in college. And Jafria was on that list of bands that should
Oh,
have
is that right?
made it bigger. Yeah. They were, hold on, I gotta look up the lead singer. He had three names, because a lot of those hair metal guys had three names. It was David something, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm not sure if they should have made it bigger. This song was great. It's a perfect example of a power ballad. Starts with, organ, dun, 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 whatever. Um, and then they just wail. And it's the rest of their songs not even sure I really like that much. They only had two albums. I wanted to like them a lot more. This song came out on their first album, which I liked most of the first album. Second album, I didn't like hardly at all, even so, but I still went out and bought it. I'm sure I went and sold it back for $2 somewhere to Vintage Vinyl to try to buy the next album by Night Ranger. I don't know. This is the perfect example, and it's where you're starting to see the excesses. Like, I'm really not sure that Jafria was that great of a band, but I'm sure that this song got them some momentum, and that's what a lot of these other bad hair metal bands did, was try to break into this power. It was a crazy trend at the time, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we're doing it justice, because I need to step back from myself and be like, these songs suck, dude. But I still listen. This one's in my favorites list, and I have over, I think I have 800 songs in my favorites, so I'll skip a lot of stuff depending on the mood. I never skip this one. I will
Yeah.
listen to it to this day.
I did not remember that band until I did go through the research and Google a little bit. And then as soon as I saw the name of the band and the name of the song, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that one. And that is just it. I mean, we talk about, trying to DJ at parties and whatever it may be, but if you listen to FM radio, there were stations that were dedicated to hair metal and power ballads, it seemed in particular. You'd hear them back to back all the time. And this was definitely a song that was played everywhere. As soon as I saw the name, I was like, oh yeah, Jafria. I remember. I didn't even know how you
Yeah,
spelled it.
I
I just remember them
know.
saying it all the time on the radio. So, however, that did not make my list at all anywhere. And of course, I have kind of a longer list from which I picked my top five. The other thing is, and unfortunately, I didn't have time to see where yours would rank, but I found a website called ultimateclassicrock.com, and
Mm,
they had a list of top 100 power ballads. So at least on my list, I was able I noted where that song fell on their list, and I don't think I didn't pick anything in their top five, and I only know a couple of your songs rankings, and I didn't look up "Call to the Heart," so I don't know where they came. But my number five song is a song from an artist that I would have sworn would have made your top five, and you already mentioned them once, and that's Whitesnake.
Yeah.
And again, I picked a Whitesnake song really out of sentimental value because we used to listen to that one Whitesnake album, the one you had, the CD, constantly when we were roommates back in our sophomore year. And my song is This Love by Whitesnake, which came out in 1987. That was number 29 on the ultimateclassicrock.com list. I knew I was going to pick a Whitesnake song just for that reason. To me, it's kind of hard. One of the things I found hard in choosing a power ballad was, some of the songs pick up, like we said, in the middle, or there may be like a kind of a hard rocking part of it. And I wasn't sure if that disqualified them or not. But in this case, I decided that I just had to go with this particular Whitesnake song.
All right. Before I get to number four on my list, I already have a post facto. So Greg Giuffria was the keyboardist, not a guitarist. He came from the band Angel, who I didn't listen to, but I knew of. The lead singer for Giuffria was David Glenn Isley. So that's the three named lead singer. David Glenn Isley later wrote and had a song in a SpongeBob movie. So I like him even more now.
Nice. Very nice.
Number four, I've gone back and forth on. I'm going to stick with my original choice. I hated this band when they came out. To me, they were everything that was wrong about hair metal. They were much more pop than the stuff I wanted to listen to, which I know people can make fun of me for even making that comment. But over the years, the song Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Poison has grown on me. It's a pretty damn good power ballad. It's got all the elements, including like where the singer does something like he's just like this, just this pause or something, dramatic pause. They talk about the dramatic vocals and everything. But I've not seen, I was going to go with Wait by White Lion, but I've not seen it on any. So I don't know that it qualifies. There's other songs, When the Children Cry by White Lion. I just didn't like that one. So I'm
Yeah,
going
I
to
remember that
stick
one.
with my outlier because this one was all the way in 1988. To me, it makes sense because I think that's about the time that the trend had run its course. Like
Yeah.
power ballads were getting to be way, way too much.
They were
But
squeezing the very last
yes,
juice, I think, out of power
exactly.
ballads.
And when it came out in 88, I thought that that's what this was. But it has grown on me over the years. It's on most lists. I'll look at your list and I'll let you know what the
Mm.
number is, but it's a pretty good power ballad for what a power ballad is.
Yeah, that one on the Ultimate Classic Rock site, that one was number 19. And I had it on my long list because I do like that. That's one that, by the way, I like my wife loves that song. And I can remember you'd hear that, if that song got played somewhere at a party or that kind of thing, you'd see everybody singing along with that song. And it's one
Yep.
that's made a bunch of movie soundtracks too, I think, particularly if you set a movie back in the 80s or 90s, you were likely to potentially hear that song played in the background in a party scene or something like that. So my number four pick of my top five is yet another one I thought we were going to overlap on, and it is actually I think the only performer that we do overlap, but we picked different songs, and I picked "Sister Christian" by Night Ranger. And
Yep.
again, sentimentally speaking, boy, did we listen to that song a lot when we were roommates. At least when we were roommates and we were 20, I think we listened to it a hell of a lot. But that was number 9 on the classicrock.com site. I still like that song. I hate to admit it, but I do like that song, and it definitely is in my top five for sure. And I would say more than any of the other Night Ranger songs that I do know, and I know they have quite a few that show up on everybody's lists, and
Yeah.
and that came out in 1984, which was, of course, clearly the heyday of power ballads.
Yeah, I would argue that Night Ranger made their name off of power ballads.
Yeah,
Almost every song that you think about, other than You Can Still Rock in America, which was just a great anthem. Almost every other song, and they started even later doing power ballad type songs for movies, Secret
yeah,
of My Success and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll get to mine. Obviously, I have a Night Ranger song. I didn't avoid, I guess I did avoid this one on purpose just because it's by far their most popular. So I tried to pick
yeah.
another one.
Yeah, that was, I will say your list to me, at least, well, I don't know if it's fair to say. I was going to say it felt like it was deeper cuts, but on the other hand,
Mm.
every rose has its thorn isn't exactly an unknown tune. So maybe that's not what it is. But I was a little surprised that we didn't match on Sister Christian.
Well, looking at your list, now that I see it, we can talk about it as we get to the rest. But Sister Christian easily could have been an overlap. I just figured
Yeah.
I was almost thinking you might pick it, so we'd have another Night Ranger song to talk about if I chose something else. Um, and I ended up choosing one that I'll get to. But my number three, it's funny, there's certain memories you have for songs. This one, I have a distinct memory riding around with my two buddies from high school. It was either junior or senior year. We went to a party of people we didn't really know all that well, and it was packed. And all they were playing was Journey. And I was like, oh my God, stop playing Journey. And like every girl at the party was like, we love Journey. Like Steve Perry is so beautiful. Like
Mm,
they just loved him. So I associate Journey. There's two bands I associate with high school that I didn't like all that much at the time, Journey and REO Speedwagon. I went
right.
with Journeys Faithfully because I have come to really like that song, and I'll explain more later as to why. It's a great song, and it's a perfect example of a power ballad. And yes, Steve Perry could sing. I just never thought he was all that good looking. So,
That's son
but
of a bitch.
that's my number three is Journeys Faithfully.
Here's where my list definitely takes a turn toward the older.
Yep.
And again, the internet seemed to think that these songs are power ballads, so I went with that because I like these songs a lot better than most of the '80s power ballads that pepper all of these lists of songs. And I picked the Styx song "Lady" from 1973, which on UltimateClassicRock.com was number 25 on their list. And that's another song that when it came out, I was what, junior high, late elementary school, junior high school, and they played it on the radio so much that I did get sick of it. But I listened to it while I was trying to put this list together. I'm like, you know what? This is a pretty good song, and
Yeah.
it's definitely a classic, and it definitely falls within the definition of power ballad, even if they didn't really start using that term probably until the '80s. I think I don't know that they coined the term power ballad until after 1982 or so. But my number three pick is "Lady."
That's a good one. And I wonder, that had to be a marketing thing when all these bands that are trying to be all macho were coming out with these sappy love songs. It's like, what do we call them? Let's call them power ballads.
Yeah, you can't call them a love song. And when you got a dude who spends more time and money on his hair than any girl you've ever seen, they're probably searching for a way to kind of macho things up. I think you're probably right about that.
And back to your list, Journey's Faithfully was number 12 on your list. I finally found the
Yes,
list.
there it is.
Almost cracking the top 10. All right, my number two, and I agree actually, as I look at your list, I think that's the big difference is you went a little bit further back in time. I purposely went with this era because of memories and otherwise. But I agree with Lady. And Styx went on to do quite a few other power ballads in the 80s that
Yes.
were probably, especially Dennis DeYoung. He made a living off of those types of songs even after he left Styx. My number two is a Night Ranger song. I've already talked about it, and it's because of that memory, but I also love the
Uh,
song. It's Let 'Em Run. It's a very, very good power ballad. I'm not sure. I mean, Probably didn't reach the popularity of Sister Christian, which became an iconic power ballad. But Let 'Em Run's pretty damn good, and it fits all. It's a sad song. Starts out slower and picks up with the drums, especially, and it made Hirsch cry. So,
Yes, dedicated to Hirsch. Yeah, again, yours, with the exception of Every Rose Has Its Thorn, I feel like that everything kind of came from between your junior year and graduation from high school.
yep.
And that, again, those songs were everywhere at that time period. So what are we at? Number two?
Number two for you. Yep.
So my top two both come from the 70s. Again, whether that fits in the definition or not, I don't know. But the song I picked was number 8 on that website list of top power ballads. And I picked it because I just love Meatloaf and the album Bat Out of Hell. And I there were actually a couple songs on that album that I considered, but I do anything for love, but I won't do that. To me is just it's I think it's funny. I think it falls within the definition, but I also just think it's a very entertaining song. And that guy, he put out 2 albums to my knowledge. The second one was pretty awful, but the first one is just classic. And I just love that song. And when I saw that I could put a Meatloaf song in my power ballad list, I jumped immediately to do that.
Yeah, I saw that one on a list, and it would have made my list, but I didn't listen to it as much as you did. I did when we were roommates because you loved Meatloaf, and
I was going to say you didn't have a choice.
the Bad Out of Hell album was played almost as much as a Night Ranger album, I'm sure. But and it was a great, great album. Like you said, there's multiple songs. Paradise by the Dashboard Lights was, I don't know if that's a power
Yes.
ballad. That's a hilarious and great song.
That played
Um,
at practically every party we ever had as a fraternity.
Yeah, and I love the screenshot they have of the music video where he's dressed up as like a Phantom of the Opera, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
lead singer Meatloaf is
yeah.
so again, music videos, man, that's where the future is.
Or was.
All right, number one, and I would have sworn I saw this one on a list and I'm like, yeah, that's like the perfect power ballad. And I was like, that's the one we're gonna overlap on. But Prince's Purple Rain. I mean, the movie, I don't know if we went together, but I saw the movie in the theater, and that song in the movie is all I can think of. And it's great because it has that amazing guitar solo that he does. It picks up pace. Talk about dramatic and grandiose production. It has all the aspects of the definition we read earlier. And Prince is freaking awesome. And I think at one point, at least on the where do we have? We had multiple Prince quotes on the Loft of Wisdom or something
Yeah,
at one point. So
yes.
I thought for sure you'd go with a Prince song.
All right, so here's the deal with that. On the website ultimateclassicrock.com, that song is the number one power ballad. And I saw that and I was like, that's not a power ballad. And I just disagreed because I'm like, that's a great rock ballad. And that's where I had trouble with the definition because when I think of power ballads, I just don't think of his music. I think of, and maybe it's just because I think his music kind of transcends all of those genres anyway, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. But to me, it's much more of a rock thing, and I don't know why there's a line in my head between those things. Because I will tell you, between us, we've just listed 10 different songs, and the best song on either one of our lists is Purple Rain by Prince. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah.
Uh, but for whatever reason, just obstinately disagreeing with the website about what was number one, I just decided not to put it on there. Because if you look at a technical definition like the dictionary definition you read, I'm like, well, yeah, that's it, that covers it. But it just seems like it's more than that. And maybe that's
Yep.
because I consider power ballads to be kind of I don't know, a lesser type of song maybe, and I just put him on a pedestal and just about everything he's done on a pedestal above that. None of that is really a valid explanation, but that's kind of where my thinking was. And I did want to pick my number one song, had to make my list, and as far as I'm concerned, on my list, certainly my favorite song, and that's the Kiss song Beth. from Destroyer, and that's 1976. So again, it kind of predates what probably use of the term. But if there's a song to me that
Yep.
just had that power ballad feel to it, it was Kiss and that song, and that was number 33 on their list. So Purple Rain was number one. Beth was number 33 on that particular website's list, but I just couldn't allow myself to think of Purple Rain as a power ballad. But I have no problem thinking of Beth falling within that category.
So two things. One's a memory. For some reason, I have a distinct memory. So back in before we got to college, I listened to the radio all the time, and they'd have the call-in shows where people would dedicate a song to someone. I distinctly remember Beth being requested all the time because it was
Right,
such a
right.
great love
I
song.
know.
So
Over and over and over again. But and I have to admit, I would just play it over. And I wasn't even a big Kiss fan, and a lot of my
right.
friends were. That was like sixth, seventh grade, I think, when Destroyer came out. It came out in '76, which makes me 10.
Then yeah.
So yeah, like fifth, sixth, seventh grade is when you would hear it played all the time, and everybody loved. Kiss had captured the imagination of our generation, and of course our parents were all scared of them, and they were a huge deal, particularly during that period of time. But
Yeah.
the only Kiss song I liked was Beth, and I had the album, and I would just play that song.
All right, so I'm going to close out our discussion of the top five with this. So the reason I think that Purple Rain should be considered the number one power ballad is typical Prince. He took a genre, like what was becoming a subgenre, and he played by far the best fucking power ballad that
Yeah,
was out there. So he took something that was bad, being done poorly by a bunch of hair metal bands, and elevated it to a level that only Prince could. So that was my logic. He didn't fit in with everything else because everything else was hair metal. But and you're the one who turned me on to Prince far more than anyone else. So you deserve that credit. But to me, that's how I can justify it is because, as you said, uh, Purple Rain is far and away the best song on either of our lists. And I took that from another one. I didn't think about it initially as a power ballad,
yeah.
but typical Prince, he blew it out of the water. And that's why I went with that as my number one.
Yeah, that's a really good point because that is absolutely what he did. You make me think of that when they did the George Harrison tribute. I don't know if you ever saw the YouTube video where they did. I can't remember the song now, but they played. It was an on-stage tribute, and they brought all of these
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
guitar players out, Clapton and all those
Yep.
guys. And Prince came out and shut everybody the fuck up. It's the same kind of thing with a different type of music. He just could do everything better than anybody else. And I guess that's why I couldn't accept putting him in the category is because he's his own category of performer. But
Yeah.
it checks off all the boxes for power ballad, and as you said, is easily the best song out of the ones we discussed so far. When we started talking about this, you mentioned female performers and artists, and there were a few on this list, although it was very male heavy on
Yeah.
ultimateclassicrock.com. But I did want to point out that I had a couple that I almost put on the list only because they're great songs, not so much that they're great power ballads, but like Pat Benatar is on the list. Shadows of the Night is number 47 on their list. That's a great song. That's
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that I would have ever thought of it as a power ballad, and maybe for the same reasons because I don't consider her, she's not Prince, but I consider her kind of in a different genre, I suppose. Maybe that's what it was. And then the other one was number 32 on their list was Eternal Flame by the
Hmm.
Bangles.
Really?
And I listened to it and I thought, well, I don't really think that's a power ballad. It doesn't really fit it to me. But really, the only reason that I bring that up is because I watched the video of it and Susanna Hoffs was just drop dead gorgeous. Like I just can't get over how beautiful she was. And she still is, by the way. I've seen like recent photos of her and she's still a beautiful woman. And maybe that's why she made the list. I don't know. But I like the song. I like the Bengals, but I didn't think of that as a power ballad, truthfully. Kind of, I guess, kind of like Pat Benatar's song. We didn't pick any Guns N' Roses. One of my Guilty pleasures is Foreigner. I really like Foreigner. I almost put a Foreigner song on there. No Scorpions, which they were huge in my high school.
Yeah.
So we definitely missed some. And if readers want to correct us on the appropriate top five power ballads, email us at thirdsongyet@gmail.com or message us through the website or, I don't know, send us a letter. Um, I don't
Stone tablet.
know. Carrier pigeon?
Uh, the biggest one that's got to be the biggest one missing has got to be Bon Jovi. I mean, Bon Jovi did.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I don't have him anywhere on my list now that you say that.
there's, and they certainly had some more rocking songs in their earlier albums, but after that, it was all power ballads, and
Yeah, you're
like
right.
hugely popular power ballads. So if we're gonna catch shit, it's gonna be over Bon Jovi.
Yeah, Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, no
Yeah,
Ozzy. We definitely, of course, we were only allowed to pick five. Although in our case, we're going to have another top five list that's
and
five ties, like we did with the last episode we did about music. But that's just the way it works.
it's the way it works. The other way it works is in each episode, Tom and I will correct mistakes that we made in previous ones, or complete thoughts, or whatever we call that post facto.
It's a mistake. It's a mistake.
You got any post factos for us this week, Tom?
I do. I do. I wanted to point out that in our premiere episode, which was what, just last week? It's hard to keep
Yeah.
track sometimes with our production schedule, but last week we ended up talking about tape heads. We were talking about R&B songs from 1966, the year we were born, and of course, somehow every conversation we have eventually swings around to tape heads. I don't know why that is, but the film Tape Heads with John Cusack and Tim Robbins. And you made the comment that you thought that the Swanky Modes, which were like the two R&B guys in that film, you thought they might have been Sam and Dave, who had a big song out in 1966. And I corrected you. I said, no, I think they were supposed to kind of represent Sam and Dave, but that they weren't Sam and Dave. Well, it turns out I was half wrong and you were half right because one of them was Sam.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Sam Moore from Sam and Dave was one of the Swanky Modes. The other guy was Junior Walker, another great R&B performer, but he's not the Dave from Sam and Dave because that would be weird unless he was Dave Junior, I guess. But anyway, I was wrong when I told you it wasn't Sam and Dave. It was Sam and another guy. Next up is staff picks.
Random, just around the corner from you.
Staff picks are Tom and I's recommendations for new stuff. We copied this off of what they used to do in record stores, bookstores, all that, where the staff would put up recommendations of new books or whatever to take a look at. And Tom and I are doing that with our staff picks. What's your staff pick of the week?
I'm making a quick change from a staff pick, which is about an animated series that may or may not actually get produced. It was announced, and then I realized that it may not happen. So I'm not even going to mention it because I'm hoping it'll come around the bend. So instead, what I'm going to do is recommend a film that is streaming on Netflix called Is This Thing On? It was co-written and then directed by Bradley Cooper, who plays a small role in the film, but it stars Will Arnett and Laura Dern. And Will Arnett, they play a couple going through a divorce, and as part of the divorce, he moves into New York City from the suburbs where they were living with their kids, and he starts to do stand-up comedy. He starts to do open mic nights. And the first time he does it because he didn't want to pay the $15 cover. And they said, if you sign your name to the list of people performing, you don't have to pay the cover. So he did that. He went in, he was drunk. He did like 2 minutes and it wasn't very funny, but he kind of got a charge out of it. And it's a lot about their relationship and they're trying to heal their relationship, but it's also about this guy finding this thing to do that challenges him and makes him really nervous, but also becomes very fun for him. And it's just really well made. I really enjoyed the movie. I remember seeing trailers for it, commercials for it somewhere and I have to correct myself. It's not on Netflix. It's streaming on Hulu. And that's what I saw. The commercials were, I think, after something I had already watched on Hulu, and then it clicks into another recommendation or something. Anyway, it just came out within the last couple of weeks. It's a 2 hour film. It's worth watching. I thought it was really well done. I thought Will Arnett. It's although it's about comedy and being a comedian, it's a serious role for him, and I thought he did a really nice job. And Laura Dern, who is I think always really good, knocks it
Yeah.
out of the park in this one. So that's my stat pick is this thing on streaming on Hulu?
Mine was one I just discovered yesterday, and I'm kind of excited. There's a band called Big Harp, and I've put their song Goodbye Crazy City on many of our playlists over the years. It's one of my favorites of all time. In 2015, they released an album. It's a husband and wife duo. And in 2015, they released an album called Waveless. It was freaking horrible. It was a total change in their sound. Most of their stuff was a little more folky. The lead singer, the husband, has a deep, resonant voice, and he'll sing and sometimes almost have the talking type of singing. They went almost electronica in this album, and it's funny. I saw reviews or people just dismayed, like, did someone else record under their name? This doesn't sound like them at all. And it was just a terrible album. And they were done, I thought. And then they had not released an album since then. And they did just this week, which is March 31st. They released a new album called Runs to Blue, and it represents a return to form for them. The first song on the album is called Kill, Kill, Kill. It exemplifies all the music on there. It's basically 11 years of marriage, children, loss, love, everything. It's a really well done album, and I'm very excited that they've returned to form. So I just assumed they were done. I hadn't heard a peep from them. It's getting good reviews. No Depression wrote a nice review of the album. On their website, they describe their sound as living in the space between storytelling and atmosphere. And I think that's a really good way to describe them. So I definitely encourage you to check out the band Big Harp and their new album, which just came out, Turns to Blue. Runs to Blue. Maybe I should remember the name of the album, or else, you know,
It's easier to find that way.
it is. But just look for Big Harp and you'll see it. And they only have a few albums. I'm hoping that their tour is only out in California right now, so I'm hoping that they expand it a little bit. But good stuff from them.
Cool. I will listen to it. Haven't had a chance yet, so I am. It is, of course, on my list. By the way, you can find our staff picks on thirdsonginpodcast.com. We have a drop-down menu that's from our shows, which includes our staff picks, our as mentioned page where you can find things that we've talked about, including this week's top 5 list, and links to our guests and their dates and details. Also, from that drop-down menu, you can find Loft of Wisdom.
You better open up your eyes, babe, because fools do get wise.
Loft of Wisdom is basically quotes. Let's just cut it down to what it is. Tom and I choose a quote each week, ideally fitting the theme of the show, but not necessarily. And then we will add them to our virtual Loft of Wisdom on the website, as Tom said. What's your quote of the week, Tom?
So this is a quote I've been holding on to for a while. It's been in my back pocket. I was going to use it last week and decided that it didn't quite fit. I'm not sure if it fits perfectly for this episode, but I don't want to hold on to it anymore. There's a character named Dan from the film Begin Again. Dan's played by Mark Ruffalo, and he plays a kind of down on his luck record producer in that film. Excellent, excellent movie to watch if you haven't seen it. And as he's talking to an artist that he's trying to sign and really wants to promote, they're walking in the streets of New York City, and he says to her, "You can tell a lot about a person by what's on their playlist." And if that isn't a quote that summarizes Third Song In and you and I don't know what does.
I'm a little nervous about what that says about me, but
can you picture you and me walking through the streets of New York, each sharing some ear pods?
no.
Yeah. All right, because that's the scene. So that would look really funny, I think. But
All right.
what's your quote?
I just mentioned them, but I'm gonna take a quote from Big Harp's Goodbye Crazy City. As I said, it's one of my favorites of all time. Song's about a guy who goes to the big city to try to make it and obviously doesn't, and the big city leaves him high and dry. And there's any number of great lyrics in the song that I could have quoted, but this one's one of my favorites. It's, man, I sure was something the way I laid him low, and I still got the will, but the legs ain't there no more. And I think he probably pronounces more closer to Mo, because
Ain't
I
no
ain't got the
mo.
legs no mo. So that'll go up on our website. Goodbye Crazy City. If you haven't heard that song, go check it out. It's a really, really good one. And it highlights all the strengths of the band Big Harp.
Yeah, that song I have heard. I do like that song.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that also seems to kind of represent you and me. And third song
Exactly. There was no, I was totally, because there's another one about all the drugs and women that he did. That doesn't really, I mean,
yeah, not
drugs,
really.
not really. Women, no, as we've said, we're
But legs ain't
drooling
there no
over
more.
Susanna, we're drooling over Susanna Hoffs in a music video.
Yes, yeah. Still do that. And our final segment for the episode is one of our favorites. It is our playlist picks. Every episode, Chris and I each pick a single song to go on to our season long playlist. This is season 12. These will be the third and fourth songs on that playlist. And already, I would say it's shaping up to be pretty good. What's your pick for this week's playlist?
Well, I alluded to this song essentially when I was talking about Journey's Faithfully.
Hmm.
This song made me like Journey's Faithfully more than Journey did. It's now listed as being done by Clem Snide and Eve Barzilay, who's the lead singer for Clem Snide. He's basically as Clem Snide. And it's been released in multiple iterations all the way back to 2011. It was officially released in 2021, but Clem Snide does a fantastic deconstructed version of Faithfully. It's acoustic and nowhere near the bombastic, power ballad style of Journey, but it captures the essence of the song. It's one of the coolest covers that I'm aware of, just because it's so different from the original. I, I couldn't. There's no other song I could have done for this playlist than Clem Snide's Faithfully. And they have a video online somewhere when it first came out that was really funny where they're interviewing Eve about the song. And he's like, the reason he wanted to do it is because Steve Perry wrote it for I think his wife at the time, and how hard it was to be on the road. And the person interviewing him said, he didn't write it, the guitarist did. He's like, oh, okay, then never mind all that. It's like, just forget all that.
That's funny.
If I will put that up on as the episode spotlight if I can find it because it's really funny.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah, that again, I have heard that song. You've talked about that before, and I love that song. So my pick for the playlist is a hard left turn. I actually had a different song chosen. I was just going to pick one of the songs that didn't make my top five list. And when I saw you picked a cover, I thought, well, that's a more interesting way to do this. So on the long list that I found on classicrock.com or whatever the hell the name of that site was, one of the songs that was on there was Stairway to Heaven. And again, much earlier than I think the heyday of the power ballad, but Stairway to Heaven, I think, certainly qualifies. And the band Me First and the Gimme Gimmes did a cover of Stairway to Heaven on their album Me First and the Gimme Gimmes Ruined Johnny's Bar Mitzvah, which came out in 2004, which, by the way, is kind of a concept album. It literally sounds like they're playing somebody's bar mitzvah and they're talking in between songs and they're talking to Johnny. And I think it's all just a put on because the stuff they say in between is really hilarious, but probably not appropriate for a kids' party. But Me First and the Gimme Gimmes do covers. That's their whole shtick is they do covers of other people's music, but they generally play them as punk songs. And this is kind of a ramped up punk version of Stairway to Heaven. I really like it. It's really a lot of fun to listen to. And after seeing you choose a cover for the playlist of a power ballad, I thought I'd do the same thing. And that's a song I don't think many people have heard from a band that not a whole lot of people know about, I would say. So I think it'll be a good pick me up in the middle of the playlist.
Not, I think I've heard of the band. I've not listened to them, so excited to see that one on the playlist.
Yeah, if you listen to them, listen to that album from start to finish. Because it's just like I said, the stuff they do in between is really, really funny.
Tom, that brings us to the end of Third Song In, which is recorded in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, in Joliet, Illinois.
Please email us your questions, your comments, your suggestions. Let us know your top 5 power ballads. You can do all of that by sending us a message at thirdsongin@gmail.com.
And also check out our website. We've said it a couple times. We'll say it again, thirdsonginpodcast.com. All kinds of stuff on there. I think for this episode, checking out the episode spotlight will be a good place to start. And there's all kinds of other stuff on there once you visit.
Yep. Please follow, rate, and review the podcast wherever you listen to it. We're on all of the streamers, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. Please give us all your fucking stars. I'm tired of asking. It's time you guys followed through. Give us some goddamn stars.
Give us your fucking stars and share our fucking playlists. They're out there on all the same streaming services. Look for Third Song In. It's in the title of every single one of those playlists, including our guest playlists, where we'll put together a 10-song playlist. Most times we have a guest on the show. Make it even easier for you. Search for T. Polachek on Spotify and some of the other services, and CP Derrickson under YouTube Music.
Please follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, Blue Sky. We like to post stuff about the website. We like to post stuff about the podcast. And we like to post stuff about our blog. But more importantly, we also post information, dates, details, and appearances for our past and future guests. So you can learn about all of those folks as well if you go to our social media.
And Tom also likes to post stuff about Susanna Hoffs. Just
yes, well, that's a private account, but still.
Also, check out our blog on Substack. In fact, you can subscribe to our blog on Substack.
You've been listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Thanks for listening.
We got about an hour and 15 minutes, so you should be able to cut it down. You should have at least 20 minutes of good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This might be a mini episode, but that's all right. Which is actually the best of the 3 of them, and it's the one I never remember how to say, or what to say, or who to say, or why to say.
Polachek, here I go. Good luck editing this shit.